How to fast track your soul story. What is your soul story? Well, before we look at that, the problem for your soul story is the flies of this world, and I'll explain that in a moment. It's the issue of the them and us scenario of the material belief there are only winners and losers in this world. The issue is, when there is an attitude of winners and losers, only the material world exists. The soul adventure is forgotten, and mental health issues prevail. The statistics are clear. Mental health issues account for 1/3 of adult disability globally. By 2030, the international mental health crisis will cost the global economy $16 trillion. Mental health is big business. The direct costs of mental health in England, just England alone, are now around £22.5 billion a year, which is more than 12% of the National Health Service's total budget. The soul story has been lost. Why? Because the purpose of life becomes centered around being the loser and trying to win. Life in the physical world has become about the climb to be special. And if we don't fall within the lines of what feels or is special, then there must be something wrong with us, and therefore we go into a sense of decline. In the world of the soul energy, there are no winners or losers. There is just consciousness. Edgar Cayce referred to the soul as a miniaturized consciousness of its origin and the entirety of the Creator. He described the soul as an atom in the body of God. And what that means is, whether you are religious or not, it is whatever you see as the life force. It's an atom in the body of the life force. Imagine, just as an example, the Big Bang was the explosion of consciousness. And the fragments of that, the fragments of the explosion, are the soul. The soul's primary purpose, what is it? What is it here for? What is the purpose of it? Who are you in terms of your soul's expression? Play. The soul's primary purpose is play. The soul is an energy vibration, a memory created through patterns of thought. If you imagine it as a memory, as something that sticks as an energy frequency, it's not physical, but it's still alive. As these patterns of thought collect, they become expanded consciousness focused on play, and play being an expression and the process of creation. It doesn't mean playing with things or messing around. It means play being an expression as a way of life. That everything is about learning through expression and the process of creation. So how did it all become about winners and losers? As the soul became more involved with material creation, so the material world, and focused energy towards the physical level of vibration, as in away from understanding of energy and fully into the physical, that only the physical mattered, and directed all focus in that direction. Evolving material patterns on the earth therefore expanded. And what happened? As the soul took on physical forms, its focus, the physical level of vibration, grew, and its awareness of the spiritual level dimmed. So therefore, we've just become These people focused on being physical rather than allowing the spiritual level. It became trapped in bodies in a sensory experience and a sensory existence. So the whole of the physical was about the sensory existence rather than being a spiritual being in a physical body. The belief as a soul, we have wandered away from God, fallen into a world of materiality, and are searching for a way back, is universal. This is a universal belief that we have wandered far from where we're supposed to be, and we're searching for the way back is a universal belief. So we go back to the flies. This is a story from the psyche of one of my Heidi Unlimited clients. I borrowed it, but it's a fantastic way of looking at how this all works, how you can look at it in terms of the soul and your experience. So in context, we were looking for the answer to the question, why am I attracting bully situations when I'm not a bully? This is the question that the client was asking. And her psyche told the story. This is a great way of looking at it. And it told the story as it's all about the invasion of the flies. In short, the bully wants to win and the bullied must be the loser. Why does the bully want to win? It's because people are afraid to let anyone see their wound that's rotting. It's where the flies live. If they become the chief of tearing apart, no one focuses on their wound. What that means is if someone is then focused, so the bully becomes focused as being the chief of tearing someone apart, and they make it the strongest action, no one will then focus on their wound. Fly people, technical term, look for wounds to live in because it distracts from the fact they have an infected wound that they don't want people to go ooh at. The person in this story, her mother, was the one with the big infected wound. Obviously, this is metaphorical, but this is how it showed. This was the symbolism of how it showed. It showed as a mix of old wood and the heart. So this old wood symbolism was shown as an old wooden heart, as old wood mixed in with the heart. And a rotting wound, as a rotting wound with excited flies. So the old wood was part of the heart, and this was a rotting area with lots of excited flies flying in and out of it. Obviously, this is great symbolism because old wood suggests that this was all things to do with the past, cutting away the old wood, the dead wood, all of this kind of expression and how to show things as far as the symbolism is concerned. Just to be clear, you are not one of the fly people, but there are a lot of flies. And sometimes those flies impact your life right now, and they certainly have impacted your life in the past. Your soul story is the point at which it's too much to be a winner or a loser. What you're actually saying is, hey, I have this wound I want to clear up. I want some help with it. Everybody has a wound of some sort. And we're looking at this, and this is the story that's borrowed from a client's psyche as to how to express this. This is a heart wound, is to say that everybody has a wound around their heart. something that is fundamental to their idea of love. And what you're saying is, hey, I've got this wound I want to clear up, and I want some help with it. In the past, or as part of the journey, you will have mistakenly asked a fly for help with that, which will have left you feeling it's not easy to trust. Who do you trust? Can you trust? Can you trust your own instinct? Can you trust your own intuition? Because sure enough, as part of that journey, you will have mistakenly asked a fly. And sure, when you asked a fly for that help, they've buried into the wound, spread it a bit, maybe left some lava. But even though that happened and you've been impacted by that, you still said, hey, I have this wound I want to clear up. I want some help with it. It's all about keeping the flies from the wound, so that the wound has time to heal, that you can then protect it enough for the closing and the sealing of that to happen. So the mother's rotting wound, this is the mother of the client. Remember, in the mind, you can do anything. In your mind, you can change anything. Okay, you may not be able to change it in the external world, in the physical, material reality, but in the mind, you can do anything. So what we did with this wound that was impacting the client, where she was experiencing in her world being bullied, even though she wasn't a bully, and couldn't understand where on earth this was coming from. And it wasn't happening in her mother there and then, so her mother wasn't bullying her, far from it, but she was experiencing it in other people. That reflection was still impacting her world in the here and now. So the imagination, the mind, is a powerful thing, can do anything. So what do we do with this old, rotting wooden heart? Well, we cut it out and buried it. Why bury it? Does that mean that you're burying it and putting it to one side? No. It's about letting the earth dispose of the mess. See, if you look at this as a wider example, that if you give something back to where it's supposed to be given back to, that area, that part of life knows what to do with the mess. So that's what we did, is mind-wise cut it out and buried it and let the earth dispose of the mess. Left the mother in relation to the client. So the mother wasn't part of this experience, but left it in the mind of the client with two ends. So the heart area was shown as having two ends with an electrical charge between the two. That the messy wooden heart mix thing covered in flies gone, it left an open space. Well, in these two ends of this open space, what was shown, obviously symbolically, was an electrical charge, two ends to an electrical charge. And this is the key. It had the option to connect. So the two ends of that electrical charge had the option to connect, to create a new balanced electrical charge, you could say, as far as the heart energy was concerned. The key thing is, it's the option to connect. And this, you could say, is free will. Therefore, leaving the mother's energy with the option to connect, and with the option to connect better as far as a daughter is concerned. But it left the client in the space where the energy changed. So the bullied energy felt calm. The client felt calm and felt much more able to cope with those bully situations in her life where they didn't impact her emotionally. And the bully energy, so when she thought about the bully and the bully energy and its ability to impact her and hurt her through other people, even through her mother's experience, or her experience of her mother, when she thought about all of that after doing this particular exercise, it all felt neutral. It felt calm and it felt neutral. And it was quick. So what happens when the wound clears up? Well, as you can imagine, when the wound clears up, if a fly lands, it doesn't stay. There is nothing for it to bury into. There's nothing for it to impact. There will always be flies, but there's no wound for it to bury in. So what happens when the wound clears up? No flies are attracted. And you become, well, a wonderful expression. There are no flies on her, or there's no flies on him, kind of person. That nothing sticks, nothing stays, nothing becomes a painful scenario. So you become intuitive sensitive without the pain, without the feeling that somehow or another you have to internalize a wound and become a home for a fly. This is the purpose of your soul story. So how do you fast track it? How do you fast track getting to that place where the wound is closed, and if there are any flies in your world, they just land and take off. Doesn't impact you. It doesn't eat into a wound, and it doesn't infect anywhere. And it doesn't mean then that you have to be on the receiving end of other people who are trying in a big way for someone for you or for anyone to never see the fact that they've got a big, open, rotting wound. How do you fast track it? How do you fast track yourself to that place where you don't have to be impacted by it, where you can live free and free to be you and free to feel fully as an intuitive sensitive, but without the pain of overwhelm? Will you begin by sorting out your association with the physical world of winners and losers? And before we do, remember this. Your journey is by design. That means when something is by design, that as you progress through it, it has to lead to a secure result. Because it's by design, it's not random. It's not a random wish for that to happen. So your soul's journey by design is this. You can look at it along these lines, which is the enlightenment journey from the foundation right the way through to this position. This is where you want to be, in the space of unownable. That's what it means to be when you have healed, closed the wound, and everyone has one. To close the wound to the extent that no flies see it as a home to bury in. No flies are sat there trying to infect something. And sure enough, you have wounds at different levels. But those who are uncomfortable to be around, those who are difficult people in your life, they have big, open, infected wounds that they don't want anyone to see. So how do you get to this place of being unownable? Or what's the process as far as that's concerned? And how does this become a fast track situation to your soul story? This is your soul story from the foundation right the way through to the bloom, from the pod to the bloom. Well, you look at it this way. This is an example, okay, how we see things when it comes to winners and losers. The superior bucket, So bucket of superior people, this is the us. This is the winner's bucket. This is where people feel they deserve. Yeah, I deserve. I'm a winner. I deserve. And yeah, I'm lovable because I'm a winner. And the them bucket, well, here we go. It's the inferior people. Well, they believe they don't deserve. And they believe that they are unloved or unlovable. And life becomes this switch between, are you a winner or you're a loser? And if you're a loser, how do you become a winner? And if you're a winner, how do you stay a winner? Well, in order to stay a winner, you make sure that no one sees your wounds. How do you get to this position where you're unownable, where neither of these situations are the right way forward, and neither of these are things that you're impacted by? You come into this position. This is the whole point. This is why you'd want to move into that unownable space. It means, as you can see, that both sides are equal. There are ladders that reach up from either bucket, whether it is in a winner or a loser bucket, where you can climb up into that space of being unownable. It doesn't mean to say that you're out there somewhere on your own. It simply means that you have compassion and you understand the journey of the physical world that people are going through, which is they seem to think that life is about moving from a winner to a loser bucket, staying in a winner's bucket and holding onto that position for dear life. Whereas freedom is in unownable, where you can see what's going on in those situations. You have a compassion for them. You don't need to judge it, but at the same time, you're not involved in it. This is the space of wound free. This is the space of where the wound has healed, where there are flies, but they don't have to land and stay. They just move on into another space. And from this position, this is the position where you can be truly helpful, truly in a position of non-judgment, and truly in a position to be able to choose and engage with whatever life it is that you want to be part of. And there are plenty of other people in the space of unownable and are working towards that. All of which, in terms of being unownable, we will have a look at as we go further into this video series.